Bec Sands is a visibility mentor and speaker supporting women in business to become confidently visible so they can put their life-changing work out into the world. With over 15 years experience as an award-winning PR consultant to some of the world's biggest brands, Bec is an experienced coach, consultant, and leader. She has a Bachelor of Media from Macquarie University, majoring in PR and journalism, and is a certified life coach from the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. Bec and I met through our coaching community back when we both lived in Sydney many years ago. And a little while ago, we had this amazing chat about PR, visibility, content, and personal branding, where Bec shared some of her amazing expertise on how we can elevate our online presence in different ways beyond our normal content. I hope you enjoy this most recent episode of the Do Business Differently interview series. Hi, Bec. Thank you so much for joining us today. I cannot wait to have this conversation with you. I already know we're going to have an amazing time because we always do when we catch up with each other. But for everybody who is listening today, who maybe has just come into contact with you for the first time, can you share with us a little bit about your business and your work that you're doing in the world and a bit of your journey where you've transitioned from working in a corporate career to where you are today and what you're doing?
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you so much. And it's so exciting to be here with you. I feel like whenever we catch up, we can just talk for hours. So we're like, let's just keep going. So, yeah, it's so cool to be chatting with you on your beautiful podcast. So I work with women to become more confidently visible and put life-changing work out into the world. So whether that's, launching a creative project or launching a business most often, but any kind of work that is creative and kind of from the heart. So that's sort of where I support my clients. So I've been working in PR for the last nearly 20 years, which is scary and showing my age now. But yeah, 12 years in corporate. And then I sort of transitioned out of corporate and into my own business. I did that in 2019 full time, but I was working on my business on the side for years before that. I've sort of been on that business journey since then, and it's grown and iterated multiple times over the years. Initially, kind of when I stepped out of corporate, I was thinking, like we had a bit of a conversation offline a moment ago just about like the fact that a lot of people want to get out of corporate and do something completely different and wear the life coach hat. And I was definitely one of those people that was like, I want to get away from corporate and get away from PR and get away from all of the career that I'd built. But I sort of managed to bring it all together and interweave it over the past sort of 5 years. It's really evolved so that it's all come together now with this beautiful synergy in a platform that I'm creating called the Confidently Visible platform. And so that kind of encompasses the PR work that I do with my consulting clients, as well as the coaching work that I do in helping women to become more visible.
I love that so much. And there's so many things that you mentioned, even just in the journey that you've been on, that I really think are important and that I'd love to just reflect back on. The first one being this idea of like, oh, I've got to get out of corporate, I've got to do something completely different. And the pendulum swing that kind of creates, where, and I have definitely done this myself multiple times, where you learn a new skill or you learn something new, you start going down a path and think that there's a certain framework for what that should look like. Oh, I've just done a coaching certification. Oh, I've just done an energy healing certification. That means I need to now be doing a business that is this. And I know for myself, in my experience, and just from what you've said there as well, what I learned really quickly and with working with lots of new coaches is that it is the experience and the skills and the expertise and the journey that you have been on to get to this point that is so often the thing that is the difference of your unique selling proposition or your USP, the thing that makes you unique in a market full of other coaches. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that journey was like for you and what were the indicators or the things that happened for you that helped you to realize that, oh, actually, I can combine these 20 years of experience and these new coaching skills to be able to actually create something really unique?
Oh my goodness. 100% to everything you just said. And I feel like So my journey, in particular, I like I said, I really wanted to get away from PR, thinking that I don't want to do it anymore. But really, it was just the fact that I didn't want to do it in the environment that I was in.
Mm.
I didn't want to do it the way that I was doing it. And I guess once I sort of came to terms with the fact that actually I'm quite good at it and I can use these skills, and none of that has to be wasted. Like that
Mm.
is all skills that I can bring into my business, and it does make my skills unique. Like that makes my offering unique, the fact that I've got that. And so it took me a little while to come around and be like, actually, I do love the PR stuff. It's just that I didn't like the application of it that I was doing in corporate. I didn't want to do that forever. I want it to be more purposeful. I want it to help people in a much kind of in a much more aligned way than just making money for a big corporate, you know? And so, I'm not going to say I don't do corporate work anymore, because I still do. Like I still have my corporate clients, but I love working with them. They're amazing
Mm.
clients and amazing people, and and I'm not like encompassed in kind of the corporate world anymore, so I don't have all the politics and everything like that. Like it's on my terms.
Yeah.
And I think that's like if it's our business, if we get to choose what it looks like. And so I choose to bring that into play, and I choose to bring all that knowledge and experience into my business and use that to help others. So
Mm.
I think, yeah, I think I just sort of, it took me a while to come around to it, like I said, but I'm just, I just love it now. And I love the way that I've set it up. Like, obviously, there's still things I want to do. It's always iterating, it's always growing. There's always another thing that I want to create, or another, like this entrepreneurial side that we all have, as solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. But it like already, if this was all I could have, like I love what I've been able to create.
Mm.
And a lot of that is bringing in that past experience, and then like having this kind of synergy with all the newer experience, if you like, of the life coaching. That really supports me in my PR work, as well as coaching clients. So none of it exists in isolation. I think it's all just it's a part of business, it's part of life even.
Yeah, I really love how you said that, because I think what happens is that, you kind of go, oh, I've got this new shiny thing that I want to do. And also the things that come easily to us, or that are where our expertise or experience lies, they're kind of old news to us. And there's something really special about being able to bring those things together. I love what you said about working with corporate still, because there's so many opportunities there that I think people get really into I do the one-on-one, I work with other small business owners and I do it in this particular way. And I love how you mentioned that not only is that work that you still really enjoy, there's something really special about being able to dip in and dip out as you want to, and do it in a way that you love, where you can still do this amazing work that you want to do, but without having to be kind of, yeah, in the corporate wheel, dealing with all of that stuff as well.
Yes.
I have so many questions that I want to ask you about PR and managing it yourself as a solopreneur. One of the things that obviously comes up so much in my communities and with my clients and members is this being visible in a way that feels really good for you and plays to your strengths. PR, I'm not going to lie, was my worst subject at university. I barely passed it. And so I would really love to hear from you how, just like taking a small step to the side of this idea of your past experience and your skills and expertise being something that adds to the uniqueness of your business when you're doing it in a space where lots of other people are doing something similar. Like, the more, it's not even so much about niching down, because I'm not personally a massive fan of that. I love how you can use the melting pot of all of who you are and the things you love and your experiences to be able to carve out a special, unique space for yourself in your industry. But I also think that's a really important part of getting visible, because you are tapping into those stories and that expertise and experience as well. Can you tell us a little bit about how you connect those things together and how people can use those experiences, not just to create something unique for their own business and their messaging and branding, but also how that can benefit them when they're looking for those opportunities to get visible?
Yeah. Well, look, first, I think like just a note on visibility. Like, I think it like across the board, it can feel really challenging because you're putting
Mm.
yourself out there, even if you have like, even if you, like, let's say you had a corporate career and you're quite visible in that, it's different because
Mm.
you're the face, like, of the company. Like, you've got that kind of, it's not really about you, it's like the company. Whereas when
Mm.
you're a solopreneur or you're a coach, like, you're putting your own work and your own thoughts and your own, like, expertise out into the world, and that can feel really confronting,
Mm.
including for me, because I'm so used to PRing other people as well. So it's like, there's definitely a learning curve there. And I feel like you don't need to be right off the bat, like, feel like, okay, I've got everything nailed, like, here's my messaging. It's an evolution. And
Mm.
honestly, my messaging evolves regularly. Like, I'm like, okay, like, I now have knowledge that I didn't have 6 months ago in terms
Mhm.
of, like, who I'm serving, and like, the clients that I'm working with and what they need as well. And so, like, it's just this constant evolution. So, like, don't worry about getting it like 100% right from the
Mm.
get-go, because it's gonna change. And don't do what I did, like, which is when I very first started out, I had someone, like, I paid someone to create this beautiful website, which was great, but I couldn't actually edit it myself. So I had to, like, pay the designers to, like, for every, like, change to my website. And then I was like, hang on, this isn't going to work because I'm changing it, like, every day. I'm like, I'm not going to pay like $250 for, like, every, like, tiny tweak. So then I was like, okay, I need to create like a website that I can actually update myself.
Mm.
So it is this kind of evolutionary process. But on that kind of uniqueness that you were saying that everyone brings in terms of their past, well, that's something that is unique to you. And, all of the ideas have already been pretty much created. Like, there's a million ideas. They've probably all been done before, but what's unique about it is you and the experiences that you bring and the connection that you have with others that resonate with you. And so
Mm.
it is about bringing in your experiences. I'm like a huge ambassador for bringing your uniqueness, but I really don't think that you have to share everything
Mm.
online. Like, I'm like one of those people that I really feel like it's like, think about it in terms of, like, how are you supporting your clients, your audience, how are you supporting them, but you don't have to share every single little thing that you've experienced, particularly if you're still kind of going through it. So it's kind of that balance of, like, yep, share your uniqueness, share some stories, like, you want to connect with your audience, but then you don't have to share everything and you don't have to get it right from the
Mm.
get-go.
Yeah, I feel like stories in particular, it's like finding the stories of your experience, because that builds the credibility that you've lived and you've done things,
Mm,
but finding them in a way that the moral of that leads to the transformation that your work provides, or
yeah.
something that you're offering within that work. And you're right, it's the same. I always think of stand-up comedians. I get so
Yeah.
much out of the way that they work, in that they're testing new material all the time. They'll go and do free gigs around, like, in their city, and test out material. They'll go on late night shows and test out material and be changing jokes. And you could literally just follow a comedian for a year and watch them develop what ends up becoming like their Netflix special, because
Yeah.
they've been testing it as they go. And I think that that's kind of an analogy that works really well with what you're saying. Like, you're not going to get it right the first time, but you need to start with something that you can carve out and build into a really good story that people are going to just resonate with, I think.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I hadn't thought about that before, but you're right. Like, any kind of creative work, it starts
Mm.
out with, like, it's got to start out somewhere, because
Yeah,
otherwise you can overthink it and then you
for
won't
sure.
ever even start. Like, you'll just be like, no, it's not perfect yet. Like, it still needs changing. I
Mm.
can't launch it yet. I can't put my brand out there yet because it's not quite perfect. It's never going
Mhm.
to be perfect.
Right. You're always going to want to change everything.
It's never going to be perfect. But it's just like using the information that you've got, where you're at,
Mm.
starting somewhere, and then kind of you can build and grow and change from there. And just having that, like, ever growth kind of mentality that, nothing's going to stay stagnant or stuck. Like, it's not like I have this personal brand that I'm putting out there and then that's it for forever. Like,
Right.
I, like, my journey of, like, my coaching brand, like, honestly, it went from career transformation coach for corporate women to, like, side hustle coach to coach for ex-corporate women, like to, like I've gone through like about maybe 8 iterations of that.
Mm,
And, and I initially was like, oh, I've got to change the brand every time. Like I've got to like get a whole new
yes.
brand and like a whole new logo and a whole new website. And then I was like, no, just change it.
Yeah, this is such a good point, and so not, as I mentioned to you, like not a direction I thought we would go in. But I love this so much because when you are looking at it every single day, when it is your everything and you're so close to it, there feels like this pressure that every change you make, you need to make a big announcement about it. And like you said, throw out everything you've done before, throw out your branding and rebrand and do something else. And the reality is that nobody is watching you as carefully and as closely as you are looking at your own stuff. And people don't even notice. And also, a
Yeah.
conversation I've had with a bunch of people is they're like, oh, I'm thinking of changing from this to this. How do I like rebrand and change my whole messaging? And I'm like, that is not that big of a leap. Even when you shared what you've been doing, and mine has been the same. I also started thinking that I was going to help people in their 20s kind of through a career transition because that was the experience that I had. And then after a year, I looked back and
Yes.
realized I had not worked with one person on that, even though that was the content I was sharing and the blog posts I was writing. The people who were coming to me were introverts wanting to start a business, trying to figure out how they could be seen and heard without completely freaking out. And
Yeah.
over time, that has evolved, but I haven't gone like, oh, now I work with people like this. Now I'm doing this sort of thing because it's like, it's all actually the same thing. It's just there's
Yes.
like different angles or it's matured and there's like more nuance to the messaging than before. And even your examples, they're all kind of a very similar audience that you're working with. You've
Yeah.
just kind of chiseled, chipped away at the different angles to get something more refined now. And I
Yes.
think we just get so freaked out that it's like, oh, I need to make a big announcement and make a big deal about it. It's like, or you could just start talking about some things that you've been trying lately, or what you've noticed, or conversations you've been having, and how that's making you realize you want to talk more about this stuff. And it just be like a really natural, organic transition versus it having to be this huge, big thing every single time.
Exactly. And your audience is probably going on a similar journey as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's probably resonating more with them. Like they're,
Mm.
yeah, it's not like if you were going from like coaching to like, I don't know, starting a sandwich stand or something, then that's different.
Yes, that's totally different.
But it's like if you're just doing a different iteration of coaching or like serving a slightly different audience or just
Mm.
at a different stage in their journey, then
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, it's just a natural progression that you can just kind of start to integrate, start to put it
Mm.
out there, and it'll just naturally kind of come together.
Definitely. As someone who has like the expertise that you have, do you have any suggestions for people who are really wanting to start sharing their message and kind of refining their personal brand a little bit more to be in the mindset of this is a work in progress and I'm going to put it out now instead of waiting until it's perfect?
Oh, 100%. Like I'm a bit of a strategy girl. So I always think like have a strategy. So that just means like knowing what you're going to do versus what you're not going to do.
Mhm.
Why you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it really, and maybe when, So but it's like don't overthink it. So just,
Mm.
have an idea like who's your target audience? What are you saying? I always love like, the old marketing kind of principles of the content pillars. So I've got 3: confidence, strategy, action, and all of my content pretty much like aligns with that. And it helps when you're trying to come up with content ideas as well,
Mhm. Mhm.
to put yourself out there because you kind of go, okay, what's something that I could help my audience build their confidence with? What's something I could help my audience build their strategy with? What's something that I could help my audience take action with, And then there's so many different ideas that you could come up with immediately
Mhm.
under those kind of 3 different pillars. So it's like, how do you actually support your clients? And then like, how can you come up with some content pillars that then everything can kind of filter down from there? Because sometimes if you're just facing a blank screen and you've got like, the cursor in front of you, like, I don't know, like what
Yes.
am I meant to say?
Mhm.
Yeah. And like just maximizing the use, I guess, of your content across as many platforms as you can. So like if you're doing one piece of content a week and then you could get maybe like 3 different posts out of it.
Mhm.
I have to say, like, I've got like you know, I know this in principle, but I also just get so, I also get so busy in my business that I like am like, cool, I could have gotten 5 pieces of content out of that one thing, but I just put one thing out there and I'm like, that'll have to do this week. Like, you know, so it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be perfect either, but you know, like if you can maximize that content, so, or if you've got like a podcast, then you can, you know, get some little snippets from there and use that across channels. And this just helps to, like, I think when you've got some content that you're putting
Yeah.
out there, that it just helps with building that confidence as well to build your brand. Like if you kind of got a like a North Star, you're like, okay, this is where,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I'm gonna help people, you know, and so these are my content pillars, and then I know what I could generally say from
Mm.
there. So I think that kind of helps with it. When you've got some ideas ready to go, you're so much more likely to put them into action and put yourself out there a little bit. But look, like it's like with anything, you really just have to get started, and
Mm.
you can think about it and think about it. It's like going to the gym. Like you can sit on your couch and think about it, but until you actually get out there and go to the gym, like you're not going to
Yeah.
see those results.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's the same with, you know, building a personal brand. It's the same with increasing your visibility. Like you've got to get out there and you've got to just do it and try it, you know, try things. Um, you know, you can start like with something that's just a little bit maybe out of your comfort zone, and then go from there. Like you don't have to start building your personal brand with like a TV interview.
Absolutely.
Like you can start with your newsletter, like start with building your
Mm-hmm.
newsletter. You can start doing some live streams on Instagram. And then you're going to get better and better and better, but only through experience and repetition.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you can read about it in a book. It's exactly like you said. You can read about doing push-ups and weights and things in a book, but and you can watch the YouTube videos and you can do all of the things, but it really is when you actually go and do the thing. And you're going to suck so much the first day and you're going to hurt so much the day after. And every time that you go back, it's going to get easier and easier and you're going to get better and better at it. And I think this is something that maybe sometimes in business we can forget about. Like I feel like with some things we kind of accept that, and even still, even at the gym, it's like I should be better than this by now. But it really is about those repetitions. I think I totally agree
Yeah.
with you.
And your audience is going to grow with you. So like you'll
Yes.
start out with like just your mum on your email list, right?
Right.
And then and then so it doesn't really matter. Like just
Yeah.
write some emails and then you'll get better and then you'll get more people
Yes,
and then you can write more emails, you know. So
for
yeah,
sure.
it sort of grows with you. Like it's not like, you know, like you're not like, you know, the Twilight cast where, you know, when they first came out and they were shot to fame.
Yes. Yeah, it's not like being in season one of Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I was just going to say, so I was listening to a video, I think by Marie Forleo, like recently, and it's something she said really resonated with me. And it was just the fact
Mm,
that, like, it was just like if you're talking about your business and you're talking about all the things that you could do, it gives you this
mhm.
false sense that you've achieved it,
Yeah.
that you're achieving something, and actually you're not doing anything to work towards your business. So she's like,
Mm.
don't talk about it all the time, because then you're going to think that you're working on your business, but you're actually
Mhm.
not.
I have been
You know?
thinking about this so much in the last couple of weeks because
Yes.
I have been thinking about that exact same thing. And then just to add an angle on for our neurodivergent folks who are listening, if you have
Yeah.
ADHD, the dopamine that you get from talking about your work or thinking about it and
Yes.
writing down and planning
Yes.
will then make you lose interest in actually doing the thing. And so it is really finding a way to be in action. And this is why I love documenting and sharing what you're working on, sharing what you're up to, what you're thinking about in a
Yes.
real time kind of place. Because then what you're doing is you're still putting stuff out in front of your people, but you're doing it in a way that is helping you to also work through and plan out and figure out what you're doing. And that can be a little bit vulnerable, especially when you're in the early stages and you're like, well, I have no idea what I'm doing. Guess what? Nobody knows what they're doing.
Nah.
And all we can do is share, like, here's some things that I'm thinking about. Here's some stuff that I've been trying this week. Here are some conversations that I've been having. And you're not trying to be an expert. You're not trying to be a guru. You're actually just sharing some life experience, some small stories that people might be interested in learning more about. If you can relate it back to the work that you're doing and the transformation that you're providing in your work, that is like 100 times better, because that is why people are on your list or following you. But I totally agree. I have been thinking about this so much. It's so funny that you brought that up, because it's like, it is, you get in your head and you're like, oh, I've done all this work. I'm so tired. I have this conversation with people all the time. I'm so tired. I've just been working so hard in my business and I'm not getting any clients. And I'm like, what have you actually done? Like,
Yeah.
what have you actually done this week that has been not busy work or not thinking and planning work, but getting in front of new people, having conversations with people, sharing your offers, really building your social proof and your credibility and your experience and your confidence, versus thinking about doing the things and
Yeah.
making big, long to-do lists that never end. So thank you so much for bringing that up, because I could rant about it for like an hour and a half.
Oh, and look, we're all guilty of it, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes, absolutely.
like I'll like turn off my computer and then I'm like thinking about work or like thinking of ideas and then jotting them down, or like still checking email. I'm like, I've got to stop. I've got to stop.
Yes.
I've got like, it actually requires quite a bit of discipline. It's
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
it's like when you're putting up boundaries around social media, like it's almost
Mm,
like you just got to delete the apps. Like, like when I go on holiday, I'm like, if I don't want to be on social media, I have to delete the apps and emails.
absolutely. Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
otherwise, I'm so tempted. Like, it's just
Yeah,
sitting there. I'll just, there'll be a moment where I'm like waiting for something to cook, or like, and then I'm
yeah,
all of a sudden I'm in an Instagram, like, I'm like, oh, look at those kitties. Like,
yeah. And to be fair, in your defense, the apps are purposely designed to have that
100%.
effect,
Yeah,
and they want you to stay on there. And so, of course, that has changed our behavior towards them as well. So you're only
100%.
human, just like the rest of us.
100%. But man, I've got so many like getting into the subject of productivity, like so
Mm.
many productivity tips. Like, because I do a lot of deep writing work
Yeah.
as well. So it's, like, yeah, I'm very much for like having a timer. Binaural
Mm.
beats are so good for when you're wanting to focus,
Yeah.
and really just getting clear on your priorities for that day and allocating
Mhm.
the time and space, and then not like actually doing that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
it's finding a way to do that actually is supportive of how you work best as well. Because like
yes,
I learned
yes,
recently, like Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, awesome for all of the neurotypical people, not
yes,
the best way for ADHD people to start their day, because they need easy things to get into, get
yes.
that early dopamine. Don't start with the hardest thing on your list, because you'll never start. Start with the easiest thing on your list or the most
There
fun
you
thing
go.
on your list. And
Yeah,
it's finding things that work for you. Is it binaural beats? Is it going for a walk or doing some movement before you start your day?
yeah,
Experimenting and trying things. I love, like, keep track of your energy each day. When are you most productive? Because I'm
yes,
most productive between like 3 and 7 in the afternoon. I am not a
yes.
morning person. And the more we try and force ourselves into being productive the way that we've been taught we should be productive, the harder it is to actually do the things that need to get done.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I definitely hadn't thought about that from
Mm.
like a diverse kind of perspective, because I'm always like, I'm definitely your neurotypical person, like just get in, get it done. Like I'm an Aries as well. So,
Yeah.
like that fire sign, like just
Hmm.
let's go. But yeah, no, definitely you've got to figure out, yeah, how it works for you, and like how can you like fit times in your day that, can also, like when it comes to visibility and those kind of activities that are getting you out of your comfort zone, particularly,
Yeah.
I think like how can you make them as pleasurable as possible when they feel
Mm.
really challenging? So can you do
Hmm.
something for yourself right after? So, if
Yes.
like, let's say you do, a live stream or something, well, then afterwards, can you like take yourself on a beautiful walk outside or
Mhm.
go for a swim, and like, give yourself some rewards so that it starts to kind of activate that pleasure center in your brain. So you're like,
Mm.
oh, actually that was quite nice, and you can
Yeah.
start to like, yeah, because I think anything done over and over again as well, you can start to like really enjoy it, particularly when you're
Mm.
connecting with the people that that can benefit from your work. And when
Yeah.
you start getting that really nice feedback of like, oh, you really supported me. Like I really needed to hear that today. Or,
Mm.
I was going through a really tough time. And then, I read your email and it's exactly what I needed. Like when you get that kind of messaging back, it just makes everything so worth it. And so it is this, like, that kind of thinking about your audience and like how you're actually
Mm.
supporting them,
Yeah.
and like that you're not annoying them by being visible, you know?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. They are on your email list. They want to hear from you. They are following you on Instagram. They want to hear from you. And if they don't, they will unfollow you. Like it's that easy.
Exactly. Exactly. And you can
Yeah.
unfollow, you can mute, like they,
Yeah, for sure.
everyone can. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like thinking about how, the fact that you're helping people, and like that's such a nice thing. And I think that can get kind of help you to get over the hurdle a little
Yeah.
bit of like the barriers around visibility.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, so in my year-long program, the core content in there is called the Seasons of Visibility because I think of those high visibility activities. I call them like the summer season. That's when you can't be in summer all year round. Like most people can't. I definitely can't. And thinking about those things in terms of like, what is the energy output required for that? So
Yes.
even when you're talking about visibility activities, and like, I call the high visibility summer, but as we've been talking about this, I've just kind of realized like not every visibility activity has the same amount of energy output required to show up for it. So, speaking on stage, going on a TV show, doing a live stream, recording a YouTube video, doing a call with your group, any of those kind of high visibility things that are high energy would be your summer activities. But there are
Mm.
also, and I'm really interested to hear more of your thoughts around this, because there are then also opportunities that require so much less energy to show up for them that are still going to help you be visible. And I think PR and media opportunities and things have changed so much over the last few years since social media in particular and the internet,
Yeah.
because that doesn't always mean you have to like be pitching to newspapers and
No.
journalists and news outlets. That you can actually manage your own visibility and PR on your own because of the internet and social media. Can you share with us some of your thoughts on that?
I think the first thing that comes to mind here is that you're right. Like the media landscape has changed so much over the
Mm.
years, and there's no journalists left. Like there's very few journalists, unfortunately, which is very sad. But what it does mean is that they're looking for more content than ever. And so,
Yes.
I think like even on a good day, like even 10, 20 years ago, like 80% of media is generated by PR. So I hope you
Mm.
realize, like everyone realizes, like question everything that you're watching.
Yes. Yes.
Um because a lot of it is driven by PR and it's driven by brands.
Mm.
But coming, that's just an aside, but coming back to this, it's, there's not a lot of journalists. They're very time poor, and they really appreciate getting stories because they're just trying to create content for their audience. They're wanting to
Mm.
get clicks, they're wanting to get viewers, they're wanting to get listeners, whatever it is. And so if you can give that to them
Mm.
in a way that will serve their audience, and they're like so happy to receive that. So I think the second piece to this is that it used to be when there was more journalists that they would be a little bit more discerning in terms of, I'm going to do an interview, or like, we've got writers that will write this. But now there's a lot of like, they'll accept like pre-written stories.
Mm.
So and it doesn't really like change it too much. Like it's more just like it's a different person writing it. So like from a
Mm.
PR perspective, like I write a lot of bylines for media. I do a lot of like thought leadership pieces. I do a lot of stuff that will just literally get printed word for word
Wow.
in the media. And so like if you pitch an idea to a publication that's like relevant for their audience, and like obviously like shows you as a credible kind of thought leader as well, then they are so likely to go, yeah, like please send that in and we'll run it. Like media always want exclusives though. So,
Mm.
if you're going to write something for an audience, make sure you're just writing it for the one publication and you're pitching it in as exclusive, which just means that they're the only one that will run it. So you're not going to send
Mm.
it to 5 different media outlets, because that's like the biggest thing for media is that they want exclusivity. They want like
Mhm.
everyone to come to them for that story, unless it's obviously like they're not going to get an exclusive on like, Trump or whatever, like
Yeah.
that's everywhere. But
Yeah.
if it's like a piece about, how small business owners can maximize the use of their time or something like that, that's okay, they're like, great, like, can you write that exclusively for our publication, and then we'll publish it on this date, and then that's your PR done for that month.
Isn't that so amazing? Because I genuinely, until you've just said that, I thought it was the opposite way around. I thought that,
Really?
but yeah, absolutely. I was like, there's so much information out there. There's so much content being created every single day by media outlets, but then also user generated content across all the different platforms and things as well. In my head, I had this belief that, like, oh, they're never going to be looking for stories because there's so much content out there to choose from. And they're always going to go with someone who has 100,000 or 1 million followers, because they're going to get more eyes on that story as a result of that. So thank you so much for busting that myth for me. But it also made me think while you were talking that how often we think that our story, like, who cares? Who's going to care about this?
Yeah.
Can you share with us a little bit, maybe some of your thoughts around how to shift that mindset to know that, like, everyone's story is interesting, sure. Like, we all know that. Yeah, that's like such a
Yeah.
cliche now. But how can we really embody that in our businesses to feel confident to share, even if it's just with our email list, maybe even if it's just on social media, but
Mm.
also then how that extends into, like, okay, well, if I can do these things, then surely I can pitch to somebody at a media outlet, or I can share my story in other ways. Can you share with us even just some thoughts around the mindset shift of, like, nobody's going to want to hear my story, I'm not that interesting, and
Yeah.
how we can think differently about that to take these opportunities to grow our business?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, if you're a celebrity, then of course everyone's going to be interested because it's the celebrity factor.
Yeah.
So, like, of course, like, everyday stories or business stories aren't like celebrity factor. But I think if you can relate it back to the audience and what they're like,
Mm.
what's interesting for them, and then use your stories to illustrate the point. I
Mm.
think that's where the sweet spot is, because it's about people kind of having that aha moment and going, oh, like, oh yeah, like that happens to me too, and that's kind of the sweet spot. It's not just like, like the Kim Kardashians of the world. It's like it's just newsworthy or like interesting to the audience just if they're using a new brand of shampoo or something, whereas whereas like for everyday people, it's like, no, like we've got to actually make it relevant and make it interesting
Mm.
for them.
Hmm.
So like, and it's all this piece about relationship building and connection, which is the crux of any kind of personal brand. It's the crux of any coaching business, or consulting business for that matter. But I think when it comes to building your personal brand, like that is what makes you interesting, is your story,
Mm.
because
Hmm.
that's what's resonating with your audience. That's what helps them to see that it's not just them, they're not alone.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between, like, mass marketing, mass appeal,
Yeah,
and then, well, your story doesn't have to appeal to everyone. It just needs to appeal to the small percentage of people that you have the
exactly.
capacity to work with.
Exactly. And like, you don't have to have a huge audience either.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to appeal to a small number of the people that you want to work with. Like, maybe you
Mm.
want to work with a lot of people, and that's cool too. But, you don't have to, how many people on the planet? Like 7 billion or something? Like, you only have to appeal to like the people that you're specifically wanting to serve, like that
Mm.
resonate with your content, and that, that you will help.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing, is that if someone's not interested in your content, then that's fine.
Mm.
They can unfollow, they can unsubscribe. Like, they're not interested, and that just doesn't resonate with them. And I'm sure there's
Yeah.
someone else that might resonate with them, and that's okay. And it doesn't say anything about you or your work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, when you try and be more broad and appeal to more people, you actually lose a lot of the magic of why people really love you. And so much better to have a tight inner circle of people who just get, like, yes, oh, everything you say, it resonates with me, versus
Yeah.
like a whole heap of people that could give or take you on any given day as well.
Yes, yes. And I think
Mm.
it was like, I saw something, I think it was Reese Witherspoon that was talking about this on Instagram or something. And she was saying that it's like, let's say you're broken up into like thirds, right? There's like a third of people will absolutely love you, a
Mm.
third of people will like not really care, and a third of people might like dislike you,
Yeah.
your work, and or just like, and that's true in life. Like,
Mm.
certainly if I think of the corporate world, that was about right.
I always say 10% and 10% of people love you, 10% of people hate you, and 80% will just make up their mind based on like where they are
Whatever.
on that day.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
maybe
I
that's
think we
it.
need to
Like,
focus less on like
yes.
on things that we can't control. We can't control whether somebody thinks our story is interesting or not. We can't control whether somebody wants to follow us or subscribe or watch along
No.
or any of
Yep.
those things. All we can control is like, I'm going to show up today and I'm going to find one opportunity to share my story or share my work in a way that might connect with people. I'm going to learn, I'm going to review it, see how it went, and then tomorrow I'm going to get up and do the same thing tomorrow and the next day and the day after that, and I'm going to learn a little bit, I'm going to get a bit more confident, and then I'm going to try something else the day after that.
100%. And focusing on the people that actually do love your work. Like have
Yes,
them in your mind because
absolutely.
that's who you're speaking to, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think that really helps as well. Like picturing someone in your mind when you're writing your story and you're writing your content and your emails, because you can see them and you can think, what would I want to say to them if they were sitting in front of me? So I really love that as well. Now, most of us know email list, social media, creating content like a podcast or a blog or something like that. And that all being stuff that we have to generate, and then we have to hope that we might get some organic reach from, or we might get in front of the people who are already following us or subscribe to our newsletter. In terms of like where your expertise kind of expands beyond that into things like media opportunities and guest posting and be even writing articles that can be submitted to certain places. This is something that I notice a lot of people, they go, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even know where to start. For anyone who is listening to this and is going, yeah, I can understand that, like, I can keep writing Instagram posts for my 50 followers, but that is not going to grow unless I start finding other people in other places.
Yeah.
What would your tips or recommendations be for people to get started thinking about this as an expansion of what they're already maybe doing?
I think start with something like podcasts because I really feel like and this is talking to myself too, because I really need to do more PR of myself. Like
Same.
the
Can we do
worst
each
thing for
other's
me right
PR
now.
maybe? Maybe we can
I
team up and help each other out.
I know. It's one of those things like I think it is useful to kind of set targets, like to go, okay, I'm going to be on 3 podcasts this quarter
Yeah.
or whatever, and then try and tick it off. Like, yeah, like, rather than just go, I want to be on podcasts, like
Yes.
actually have a number around it, because otherwise you'll just let it, like, it'll just be the final thing on the to-do list forever. Whereas if you get to the end of the month and you're like, oh, I was meant to pitch myself to a podcast, like at least I'll do it on the final day of the month, just tick off that, like almost think about it as like your business KPIs or something. But yeah, like start with podcasts because that's a really nice way that you can, like, it's a nice easy entry into it, I think, because you can kind of have a conversation and there's not a lot of pressure like that there would be for like a media interview. And honestly, like media interviews, I mean, I think with coaching and like solopreneurs it's probably traditional media is probably not even like as much the path. Like there are
Yeah.
some publications, but just getting a spot in a paper, or I don't know, like it's probably not where your audience is anyway, as much. So it is good to have, like, don't get me wrong, it is really good to have. But I think if you're looking at how you can get started, I really think pitching yourself to podcasts and, do that by getting to know the people, listening to their podcasts, like really understand who they are. Don't just pitch like the same pitch to everyone.
Oh my goodness. It's like, did you even look at my podcast before you send
Yeah.
that email? Because guess what? That isn't even remotely the kind of people that I
Relevant.
talk to.
Yeah,
I had someone who
exactly.
was like heavy machinery business
Yeah.
wanting to be on my podcast. I was like, I didn't even reply.
I get heaps of those
Yeah.
and I just don't even reply to them either. Yeah, I'm just delete.
Yeah.
Like, nope. So I think if you can approach it with, like a personalized approach, like you think that person, like you have a few topics that would align with their audience that you could say, and suggest and say, I'd love to be on your podcast. Here's some of the things that I could speak about. This is why I think it might be a good fit for your audience.
Yeah.
and then yeah, kind of go from there. And like the worst that could happen is they say no or they don't reply,
Yeah.
it's fine. And then, okay, cool, I'll go to a different one. But if you've got
Hmm.
like a community, if you can start to get to know like community of other entrepreneurs or business women, like often, like you and I, like we'll be like, hey, come on my podcast,
Hmm.
I'd love to have you on the show. So I
Mm.
think like it is that kind of like leveraging those kind of relationships that you build as well. And and doing things that are like it's like, I'll be on your podcast, I'd love for you to be on mine as well, like that would be
Yeah.
awesome. So it's kind of things, always kind of come at it from like a, like how can I help that person, like how can what
Hmm.
I'm pitching help them,
Yes.
um you know that
Yeah.
kind of mentality. So yeah, I think podcasts, I mean, yeah, you can definitely pitch in sort of byline ideas, but I guess you do sort of need to be able to write them. So it just depends if you're a bit of
Mm.
a writer or not. But though that's definitely a way to get in front of media. What else can you do? I mean, there's so many things. Like speaking is a really great way to get in front of different audiences and for them to get to know you. Whenever I do a speaking event,
Mm.
honestly, like I always get like 10 people afterwards, like in some way they reach out for something like coaching, or I'll get new clients from that, or
Yeah.
they'll introduce me to someone else and then there's a collaboration, or they'll come on the
Hmm.
podcast, or
Hmm.
so I think once you start to get the wheels turning, like an opportunity will lead to another opportunity, will lead to another
Hmm.
opportunity. And then I think if you're approaching it from this kind of more generous lens, like what can I give versus what can I get,
Yeah.
I think that's the key there. It's being generous with your time and with your expertise and like helping others. So how can you like support them? What is it that they're wanting to
Mm.
achieve? Can you connect them with someone that could potentially support them? So
Hmm.
having that kind of lens, I think it's just really important. It's just like building relationships.
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, oh, this has come absolutely full circle to
Yes.
that's what you said right at the start. And it's such a perfect
Yes.
example of that because you're right. When you come to building relationships, connecting with people from a place of I have no attachment to the outcome of what will happen here. I'm just going to show
Yes.
up and be myself, and whatever happens, happens. So if something amazing happens and an opportunity presents itself, that's awesome. And if not, I'm not disappointed. I'm just going to keep doing the things because those
Yes.
opportunities do come, and usually they're better than anything that you could have anticipated. And
Exactly.
like exactly like you said, from speaking and things like that. But if you go into it being like, okay, I've got to get 3 clients out of this talk and I want to connect with this many people, it's like you are putting too much expectations on things that you cannot control. Just show up
Exactly.
and do the best you can, connect with a few people, depending on how your energy is that day and how many people are in the room in those big kind of conferences and things. I'm like, if I can just connect with one person, I will see that as the success because I cannot expect myself to talk to 100 people today.
No,
So it's
absolutely
knowing that
not.
about yourself, but really coming from, like you said, the generous place of how can I be supportive and of service and just here to connect versus what can I get out of this? The energy behind it is so different as well.
It's so different. And I think that's like with anything
Mhm.
in business, really, like without, and it's with anything in life too, without obviously, you want boundaries. Like
Yes,
you don't want to be a doormat. No,
of
I'm not
course.
kind of like suggesting that, but it's, like when you do come at things like with the the purpose that you're
Mhm.
wanting to help and support others, I think it
Mhm.
always comes back around times 10, like in ways that
Oh,
you least
absolutely.
expect without you
Yes.
expecting anything?
Yes, I totally agree. Like, give from that place of just doing it because you can and
Yes.
not expecting anything. And it'll always come back in some way. Without,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's like not to say like like when it comes to, because I know that like, as women, as business owners, often we can be like not charge what we're worth and do those kinds of things
Mm.
as well. So I definitely, I'm all for charging what you're worth as well. And I'm all for like, and I think that's, yeah. So I'm not saying, like, when I say come from a place of generosity, I'm not saying like
Yeah, give it
do
all away.
free,
And yeah,
give
yeah,
it
because
all
you still
away,
have
like,
bills to pay.
and like your time is valuable and all of that kind of
Hmm.
thing. But also,
Hmm.
I think that when, like, this is kind of a bit of a segue, but when you give things away too much for free, or like,
Yeah.
if you ever do like a freebie coaching series, which I'm sure all of us coaches have, like,
Hmm.
and like particularly at the start when we're getting, like, that's
Of
great when
course.
you're getting the experience up, but then I
Yeah.
think if you're doing it later on, it's like the person's not invested because they're not
Mm.
paying for it, because that money is energy, and so if they're
Yeah.
not invested in it, they're not going to do it. And
Yeah.
so I think money is actually a beautiful exchange of energy, and you're
Of
actually
course.
providing even more value by
Yes.
like exchanging that value of services to money. So like it's still kind of coming from that place of generosity and like adding
Mm.
value, but it's just exchanging the energy. So yeah, so I do think it still stands.
Yeah, I think it's different. There's different levels of it. And what I
Yes.
notice a lot is there's sometimes people, and some people even are wanting to never charge and do everything for free. And it's like anything that's
Yes.
extremes is never going to work. And then there's other people who don't want to do anything for free because of the, charge what you're worth. But the thing is like sometimes you do things in your business that there's no immediate financial ROI on, and you
Yes,
can't even
correct.
necessarily quantify that. And so
Yeah.
sometimes you actually have to go, you know what? I'm going to do this for the joy of it, for the experience, for the confidence that
Yes.
it's going to bring, for the who knows what might happen if I do this. And then I'll decide afterwards, do
Exactly.
I want to do that again? And then it's again comes back to what you said right at the start about it's going to be an evolving thing, just like your website,
Yes.
just like your branding and your messaging and who you work with, and being open to the fluidity of that. And
Yeah.
also constantly checking in with yourself about, do I still feel good to do this at this price? Do I still feel good to do this for free? And what is my next step from there as well? And I think that that works across literally every decision you have to make in your business.
It also depends like what else you've got going on in your life, and sometimes it will
Yes.
ebb and flow. Like
Yeah.
you might be really like, yep, I'm going to go all in and like, build that brand and like do a whole bunch of opportunities, but then you might have a challenge come up, like moving house, health
Mm-hmm.
challenge, whatever, and then you might have to pare it back a little bit, and that's okay as well.
Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your amazing knowledge with us today. I could literally talk to you for the rest of the day. But for everybody who is watching and wants to learn more about your work and check out your podcast and all of the things, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, well, probably on Instagram at Bec Sands, or on LinkedIn, or just on my website, becsands.com.
Awesome. Do you have anything exciting coming up that you can share with us that people might be
Um,
interested in?
I'm actually working on my book, Confidently Visible: A Guide to Moving Through
Ooh.
Fear and Putting Your Work Out into the World. So that is, yeah, that's in work. I'm really in the thick of it at the moment. So I'm hoping to launch that. Well, it'll be launched in 2025 when I'm not sure. So
Amazing.
yeah, so working on that at the moment, which is exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and for sharing just your excitement about PR and marketing and branding and your amazing energy and expertise with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved our chat, and I could talk to you for hours too.